Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Religion Zero. I think we're on number 33, if I remember correctly. Did I get it right this time?
I think you did. I think the
Look at
naming is
that.
33. Yeah, we're good.
Boom. I didn't fail on the name nor the number. I'm 2 for 2, so I'm just going to retire early, 100%,
While on top,
so I make way more mistakes. But yeah, as you guys saw, we kind of had a hiatus. It was not planned hiatus. I just have horrible sleeping problems. And since the last episode was set up on my channel, it's kind of bad when the host can't sleep. So, so we had an accidental holiday break. So Brooke,
much needed. I think we did.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I was unconscious, but I think I enjoyed my breaks on Sunday. Brooke, how'd your last couple holidays go? We got two in a row.
Yeah, we had two. I think we had basically 2 weeks off. So that was Christmas and New Year. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to our viewers and watchers and listeners. It was quiet. We are back in lockdown out here in Wales. But basically everything has been closed down. So I was on my own again, for the fourth time this year. I did manage to sneak in with my downstairs neighbor. He and I shared a drink for Christmas. We shared a drink for New Year's. He's a very interesting guy. If you do hear some strange noises coming over, he's the guy downstairs who's watching porn. It doesn't sound like porn today. Sounds like the BBC, but
What's the difference, really? You're still getting
right? It's state propaganda out here in the UK. It's just as bad,
Yeah.
But I enjoyed myself. I had some wonderful mead. I cooked myself a nice ham. Ordered a celebratory pizza for both Christmas and New Year's because
look at that.
Yeah, that's what you do. And I had a good time, but I'm excited to be back with the show. I'm excited for your new look. I don't know if anybody has seen.
Oh yeah,
Kong's Facebook, his Kratos. Yeah,
his Kratos it up. Look. I'm balding it up. Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
Oh yeah, you got to keep that image.
Yeah. How was your holidays, man? How did you make out for the Christmas and the New Year's?
So I had my Seattle family drove down to my place, which is a 3-day drive.
Wow.
And they stayed for a week in my upstairs Airbnb, and that's good. And thankfully, I was hesitant at first, but it went all right. And they forced all of my younger siblings to clean the whole house before they left, so I didn't have to do anything. So that was good. I basically just had to take the trash out on trash day. That's all I had to do. So, yeah. So, I mean, it was worth it overall. And it felt good because my mom is one of those people that feels like she's obliged to pay for everything, and I'm not going to stop her. So my bank account was feeling extra fat at the end of the week because I spent no money for 8 days.
Good on you, man. Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah, always a good feeling. But that was Christmas time, and then New Year's we actually had a big snowstorm here in Missouri. And nobody could really drive. So everybody was just home chilling. Nothing special happening.
We have yet to get snow out here in Wales. Like, I think we got like 5 minutes of snow yesterday. So it's almost as if it never happened. But we got nothing out here in Wales.
Yeah, this was our first snow, and it just turned into an ice storm. And you couldn't really walk down your driveway without, eating asphalt. So... so everyone just chilled and stayed home, and I'm okay with that. I had to brave the weathers yesterday and defrost my car and get through all that ice because I was out of nicotine, and that's important. So my brain was very motivated to get out of my house and go to the gas station. So
that's worth breaking it. The cold, man, you got to get that done.
Yeah, exactly. And I almost got frostbite on my fingers because I don't own gloves at the moment. And I found that out the hard way. But they're turning a little bit different colors. Had to, stick them in your shirt for a while. And it all went okay. But yeah, it was pretty bad. But I'm alive and kicking. So that's good.
Glad to have you. Glad you made it.
Yeah. So Amos, how was your holiday break?
Wonderful. Wow, that's amazing.
Wow, great. That's amazing. Wow, you're really the talk of the town right now. I can't believe you were able to slay all of those dragons and those women.
Yeah, yeah.
I was trying to see if I should be politically correct or not, since I already said fuck so far. Did we already just let it out of the bag?
Yeah, I
right.
think you're allowed light profanity on YouTube. You just can't go overboard. So I think we'll be fine.
Okay.
I think we'll be fine.
All right.
But
Awesome.
yes, we are technically a man down. Hopefully, he will be joining us with stories of slaying dragons and Vag. We'll see how that goes.
Exactly. Oh, come on.
Yeah, you got it there. Yeah, let's get into it, man. What's going on? What's the topic?
Well, yeah, I had a little subtopic because this is just something I was thinking about the other day. It's not really related, but I'm pretty sure I could pull something out of my butt and make it related. We'll see. But I was curious that if like we talk about the government or the deep state or all that kind of stuff, kind of has control of the media and the news, or at least heavily influenced. Like, why do we know about Epstein? Why do That's what Twitter. I'm confused about. Like, was he just the fall guy, or was that planned? Like, I don't think we just like uncovered something secret and they had to deal with it. I feel like they have the resources that was like a planned arrest.
So you're kind of implying that they've known about Epstein for some time, and then all of a sudden they just seem to spring on him. And you want to know why? Is that the question?
Yeah, I mean, like if there's all these like top secret, government and military and pedophiles and all these like secret elites, like why did we find out about Epstein?
No, I think it's a fair point because the NSA spying program in the US, I think we have something equivalent in the UK. I can't be certain. It might be MI6. They're supposed to be recording everybody's conversations. They're reading everybody's emails, supposedly, allegedly. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that the top security people actually have more information than they're probably letting on. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised somebody hasn't come forward with some communications given the recent debacle with your US election. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are all sorts of fantastic conversations and recordings of the shenanigans that went on there. But again, I'm sure all of that stuff is classified, ultra top secret.
Yeah,
you can't get access to it. I mean, to be fair, I think there was a reporter at CBS that knew about the Epstein, story at least a couple of years before it broke. And but this, Epstein is supposedly holding secrets for a lot of very powerful individuals. So he's protected on high by the Trinity of the ungodly sort of thing.
Yeah,
that's probably the only reason.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's tricky though, because he was protected. Like if you watch like some of his old the documentaries about it on Netflix and all that stuff, I was talking about there's a bunch of times he got pulled in with like local police and things like that for things, and then the FBI or the CIA would say, okay, he's untouchable, don't touch him. So they've known about him for a long time. So why did they decide to get him now? That's what I'm thinking. Like they could have just kept doing that, right?
As I say, it could have gone on. Somewhere, somebody even more powerful, let's say that, they pulled the trigger. They pulled the trigger on him, and what was it? Was it the FBI? I don't know who actually arrested him. But somebody, the whatever insurance was being held got. I think it's also possible that he may have threatened to use the information. So maybe he did have a secret on somebody, and he kind of like threatened them, and they basically said, we got to take this guy out. And that's possibly the reason they exposed it suddenly, and supposedly he died.
Yeah. And also because of the suicide, isn't still a lot of his files sealed like that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, there is deposition testimony. I think that's all being held by either the Justice Department or the FBI or something like that. And of course they have his girlfriend now. And she's apparently spilling just as much beans. She knows a lot about where the bodies are buried. So we'll see.
That's good. Is that metaphorical or literal bodies? Probably both.
We'll leave that up to the audience.
Alrighty. Well, I tried to find a way to spin that the topic, but I couldn't. So topic you got on here is talking about should Christians promote unity or diversity? Because those are two super PC correct buzzwords that we throw around a lot. But I think the more you think about it, aren't they kind of opposites? So should we pick either of them? Should we pick one over the other? Brooke, let's just start with you, and then we'll get to Amos.
Yeah, I'm very excited to hear what Amos has to say.
Oh yeah.
My take on the topic, much like you said, these are kind of political terms that are being thrown around in the U.S. and in the U.K. and Europe. And ironically, we do come from a framework in the Christian tradition of unity and diversity, where there is a unity of the Godhead, sharing of the nature, but yet there's traditionally seen as three individual distinct persons. And this is a great mystery. We don't fully understand it. There are many different ways of interpreting this. Not everybody holds the Trinitarian view. Some have like the modalism and other views and stuff. But I'll hold to the tradition that it is kind of, it's both. All right.
Yeah.
And you and I were getting into the discussion before that, even within the Christian sphere, you've got the Roman Catholic Church, you've got the Orthodox movement, and you got the Protestant movement, and of course there are multiple sects underneath that. So we got a lot of diversity, right? We got a lot of that going on. And then also, because Christianity does tend to have a unifying message, while the expression can be unique. We talked a little bit about like the Japanese Jesus, and anybody go to China and you go to a Christian church, it's not the Italian, a white Jesus. They have a Chinese Jesus. They've got a Japanese Jesus, and all of these cultural things. I think Christianity allows for the diversity of expression. I think it allows for diversity of interpretation. And I think you and I would both agree that there are probably just a number of small tenets that we kind of uniformly have to agree on. But everything else is kind of fluff. It's icing on the cake almost.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that's kind of my view, and I think it should be encouraged. I think it takes several. In the history of humanity, there've been, let's say, about 100 billion people that have lived on the earth, and out of those, every one of those individuals is put together by parts of God. God put 100 billion people on the earth, each expressing a different part of himself. He made you tall, he made you ginger, he made me short and like Viking looking. And, we got all of these different parts, but they all come from the same source, which is interesting that it takes 100 billion people to express God on the earth. And I think there's a beauty in that, in that type of diversity. And I guess we'll get into the political aspect of it, but that's my overall view. I think it's both. What say you? What say you with that?
Well, first let's go to Amos. Solid point.
Wow, that's profound.
Nothing but home runs from Amos today.
Yeah, scholarly work there, my friend.
Man, yeah, I should just let you host this from now on. You really got it.
He's gonna enjoy watching this later.
Yeah. Backtracking off of what Amos's point was, I was going to say, I can't keep a straight face right now. I'm too tired. Anyway, like when I hear unity and diversity, the reason I usually think they're contradictory is because, and I guess it's just talking about what flavor of those, because the fact that they're so widely spread used terms, everybody has like 1,000 different definitions for them. One guy's unity is not another person's unity, because we have like Unitarians, and there's a lot of people that agree or disagree with some of those points and things like that, or like unity is in like universal, like universalism, things like that. But when I think about diversity and unity is everyone's supposed to be the same thing, and diversity is everyone be your own thing or separate into your groups, so to speak. And to me, I think those are interesting because they both sound like nice, happy words, and we kind of want to be both. But I think there's some dirt and grit in there that people don't like to talk about. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Kind of like, I don't know, different denominations and types of Christianity burning each other at stakes. That's some solid diversity and unity there. So, and I think, okay, here's something I want to jump to because I think it might help, like, move a little bit more into a certain direction of an aspect of this, at least.
Sure.
Do you know the phrase diversity plus proximity equals war?
No, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's actually a Chateau Hertis old thing that I learned about a year ago, and I thought it was a very interesting formula where it said essentially, diversity, the more you have different groups with different values and different opinions, plus proximity, all having to live close to each other, eventually someone's going to get killed. Right? And and I've always thought that was an interesting quote, and the more you think about it, the more it kind of makes sense. And I think you could see that in church history plus history in general. But I also think it's an interesting aspect because now that we're more individualistic instead of collectivistic, some people are still trying to pull us back into that collectivism, but in general, I would still say we're still more on the individualistic side. So I think you could even see that from a personal standpoint, right?
Yes.
Everybody thinks they're the good guy in the story, Yeah. And so everyone who disagrees with you is the bad guy. Have you got any say on that, or have any examples of if that's ever happened to you?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, coming from the church that I was involved in, the minute my doctrine started to change, and I kind of discovered a more orthodox view, and basically my understanding, interpretation. If I was right, it basically meant everything that they taught was wrong, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, the doctrinal issue is a big one. Although, as I've stated in other places, that's very much Gnostic, right? Mm-hmm. That's very much you think you're saved by your doctrine. You think your doctrine has to be right, and that is what's caused a lot of this division. It's the reason we have 3 branches of basically the same faith, right? Mm-hmm. So I was discussing with you previously, I was recently in a number of Telegraph groups. Telegraph is similar to WhatsApp. It's a communication platform, and they were all about orthodoxy, and for people who are interested, people who want to know more about it, and all these different types of things. And I thought it would have been nice theological discussions about the nature of man, humanity, and the inclusion of people, and all the positive aspects of Christianity, charity, love of your fellow brother. Lo and behold, it was just a pissing competition for them on Catholics and Protestants. Mm-hmm. All they cared about was owning the Latins. We've got to own the Latins, how in political spheres you have to own the left. They had the same kind of political thinking. And yes, they're trying to evangelize, so they're trying to bring Protestants in and Catholics, but they're just pissing on everybody. Even the red pill. I read, the final straw for me was reading an article by a guy basically saying that the red pill was a religion, which it's not, and basically denying that the regenerative power of Christ. And he was shitting over Dalrock, which is kind of the Christian red pill gentleman. And he's just spewing these opinions, and everybody's like, yeah, this is great and stuff. And it's this guy made no point, none whatsoever. They're just picking their side.
Just word vomit, yeah.
It's politics in a sense, which is what we see in the church history. So you talked briefly about when that diversity within proximity, you see violence. That's what caused the Great Schism, right? That's what caused the Latins and the Orthodox Church. They were attacking each other. There was the burning of Constantinople, the killing of the bishops. And all of these kind of, our faction has to be right. Mm-hmm. And what I love about our discussions is, we do have different opinions. We do have, I don't think any of us are dogmatic to the point this is how it's got to be. Mm-hmm. We have convictions in our beliefs, but people have different opinions, and it doesn't matter if it's working for them. We kind of leave them to it. Yeah. That's been my experience. I've seen it in my personal life with the church when my doctrines changed, and I lost a lot of friends. And thankfully, I'm kind of grateful for that, because my non-Christian friendships have been much stronger than my Christian friendships. Mm-hmm. And as you say, we've seen it in history where politics has come in, and there've been crusades. And as I say, one of the first crusades was against Constantinople, and it was against the Orthodox Church, and it split the church. So it's definitely a truism.
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting. There's a lot of things there I definitely want to piggyback on, but the most recent one, because I have a goldfish brain, that you said, was talking about that you had better friendships with non-Christians than you did Christians. Yeah. And that's definitely been true for my life. They have a lot more sense of I don't know how to put it, camaraderie, I guess,
Yes.
or, you know, I don't know. It's just weird when you look at the difference between Christian friends and non-Christian friends, because Christian friends have that high horse they have to sit on,
Yes.
you know. And shout out to Ryan Stone. He'll love this if he ever watches it. But the Christian life has a lot more kayfabe.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
get what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if people don't know the term kayfabe. It's a wrestling term, where essentially you're trying to keep that disbelief going and trying to keep that illusion going that like Hulk Hogan really hates Undertaker, even though they probably go to the bar and hang out after the show, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that like this guy has to be a face, this guy has to be the good guy, this guy has to be the heel, he has to be the bad guy, and they have to fight and hate each other's guts and have backroom brawls and all this kind of stuff. And like that's all kayfabe, it's the illusion.
Yeah.
And so when I think of Christian kayfabe, I got to think of the, oh, I don't have sexual thoughts. Oh, I don't look at porn. Oh, I give to charity. Oh, my tithings are intact. I give 12%. Look at me, you know?
Yeah.
And to me, that's all kayfabe, right?
Yeah.
And when you hang out with non-Christians, they don't really have that, you know? Or at least they have less of it or a different flavor of it that's more tolerable, I guess.
No, I agree. Like
Yeah.
I would share this quick story with you. Like I mentioned that I went to have a drink with my neighbor. Nice guy. He's 72 years old. You know, very very happy fella. But he, 72, single man. He watches a lot of porn.
Mhm.
And when I walk into his house, on his television is whatever news program, and then over to the side is a small portable DVD player with porn. Right?
Yeah.
And it's just what it is, right? You watch the TV, the TV's boring, you watch the porn, you have a drink, and that's kind of the experience. And he's not trying to hide anything. He's not putting up pretenses. And okay, so maybe that's not, I wouldn't personally do that, but he's being honest, he's being real, and at his age, he has no pretense. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate his honesty and his candor and stuff like that. He's obviously not very religious. But he's showing me his, I've seen him come through the door completely pissed drunk, and he's not making, any kind of stories or hiding the fact that he has all these relationships with these women around the neighborhood. He's kind of, the village whore. Totally real.
Mhm.
The man is like one of the most authentic people I've ever met,
Yeah.
You'll never hear that in a Christian circle. You'll never see that kind of, well, I can't say you never, but generally you don't see that realism in
Mhm.
Christian circles. Which is a shame.
Yeah. And I think that's one of my problems with like the idea of like unity, at least as people use it today, of like, to me, a lot of people use unity as you have to believe what I believe together or we hate you.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And the unity is on doctrine. It's not on the person of Christ. It's on, these are all our peripheral doctrines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's all come together under my church because my church is right.
My denomination is correct. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's stupid. And I mean, you can even see that in the politics sphere, right? Because that's one of the common memes, post election tech, I guess. If it's kind of still mid-election, right? But
It's still kind of going on in the US.
but I think a lot more people have given up and like you're just like, okay, Biden, whatever. I'm seeing a lot more of that. And a lot of those people who vehemently hated the other half is now telling them unity under Biden.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You're all racist Nazi skinheads and we want to punch you all in the face and kill you. Oh, but your guy lost and now we have our guy in the presidential seat. So come over here in unity.
Yeah.
Right?
After calling people Nazis and racists for 4 years, now they want unity.
Yeah, exactly. Because they got their guy in the chair,
Yeah.
And so to me, I kind of see the same thing happens in the church. It just, they have a different kayfabe they have to do besides the whole, happy-go-lucky leftist half. But
No, I agree.
Yeah.
There's a great story by I think something Lynch. I can't remember his name. He wrote a fantastic book. But he talked about that. He talked about, when he was going through his kind of revelation and awakening or whatever you want to call it, he was a pastor of a church and he would talk about every time he goes there on a Sunday, he'd ask people, how are you doing? And everybody's fine. how you doing? Oh, too blessed to be stressed. I'm too anointed to be disappointed. And all the
God,
all
I
the,
hate all that so much.
yeah, all the catchphrases, all the
Yeah.
nonsense, right? And he would talk about that, and he said everybody's wearing this mask. Everybody is got this mask on. They might be dying inside, but they got that mask on. And the reason they don't want that mask to slip is because they have the impression that if you're struggling, or if you're having a hard time, or if there's any kind of you're not happy, jumpy, joy of the Lord sort of thing, you're not a real Christian.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that stigma. So everybody's faking it. That's the problem. That's what I see happening.
Yeah. It's silly how that all works. Train's gone. Hold on. Let me try to meet it at the next station. Yeah. Sorry, I was just trying to ping Amos one more time, and I totally lost where I was going.
We got Stephen Green in the chat. Hey, welcome, bro. Thanks for joining us, man.
Stefano.
Yeah.
Stephen and I actually have a bet right now, which is fun. We don't really have any skin on the table, but we're going to see who can only eat home-cooked food the longest.
Good on you, man.
Yeah, so I gotta really cut down that DoorDash budget, so
as do I. I have to start making pizzas rather than ordering them. So
yeah. Exactly. But man, I've had nothing but T-bone steak the last couple of days, and it's been
Good
amazing.
Man.
Dude, yeah, there's a ghetto store around us called Save a Lot. And you could just tell by the name, nothing good can come from there. But they had T-bone steak for $4 a pound, and I bought 22 steaks.
Good.
And threw them in the freezer. So yeah, I've been partying it up over here with steak. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, unity and diversity.
The fakeness of those relationships.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, unity, you have to sacrifice something in order to make it work, is I think my main original problem with that. And I brought it up in the Facebook group we have for Religion and Red Pill. I was talking about people just want unity in the church. What does that even look like?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And I feel like if you look at history, more often than not, it is convert to our side or die. That's their version of unity. Right?
All too often. Yeah, but I don't think that they're killing people anymore. I don't know how churches are where you are.
Yeah, now they just get canceled, right?
Right. Now it's like ostracized. You're going to hell.
Internet dead. Yeah.
Believe like us, or we'll dogpile you on Twitter, and you're going to hell. So just as bad. As bad, I would say.
Oh yeah, and it's from both sides too. It's not even just one champion. Like I could think there's multiple denominations or political parties, or any way you want to split it. You have those people on every side, right? That are be like us or, screw up. Because I mean, the trad cunts are like that too, I think.
I agree.
You can see those on Twitter. They all virtue signal about their deadlifts and their Bible study and their why monogamous nuclear family is the only God solution and all of those kind of things.
And all the stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's all the same thing, right? That's all kind of kayfabe at the end of the day. So I think it's interesting on how so many people use the word unity, but I don't think they know necessarily like the ramifications of you trying to literally, because I understand the metaphorical unity. We could all be brothers in Christ, but when you try to actually put try to walk the walk, somebody's going to have to get cut off, right? I think at the end of the day that happens, and people don't really think that far into it, right? That eventually, if everyone has to unify, that means you're going to cut off people.
I agree.
To keep the unity, right? Which is also why I hate communism, which because that's a different thing. Yeah,
you're right to hate the. But what would you say is a unifying like base mixture that we could probably see in the church? What's like the bare minimum that we can agree on, and everything else we could kind of disagree on? Yeah.
I think I've said it before, but my friend and one of my favorite people online is Pastor Sean McCraney, the Christianarchist guy. His is basically, did Jesus die for your sins? Yes or no? All right. After that, anything goes.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that's a good thing because you can argue yes or no for all the little nitpicks of all these things, like are you pre-trib or post-trib? Do you need baptism by immersion or by sprinkling? Do you even need baptism to be saved? Like all that shit you can argue for or against all day until your face is red, but like, does it matter? Does it?
No, really. I think you're exactly right. I think we can unite behind the work of Christ, that he's done it for all people, and how you interpret that beyond anything beyond that, I don't think is really that important. I mean, for me personally, okay, yes, my theology might be closest to Eastern Orthodox, but there's a lot of things that I struggle with within, the Orthodox movement, right? The perpetual virginity of Mary is one that I know historically in the church is well established, but that's a pill I really struggle to kind of deal with. The constant repetition of the Lord's Prayer, right? That's written in the Bible, but it actually contradicts what we see some in the New Testament, where the line that says, forgive us for our sins as we forgive those who trespass against us. In the new covenant, we're already forgiven. You don't need to ask to be forgiven. So again, a lot of these things I struggle with. But even then, there's some things that I appreciate from all the different branches. So, I mean, we may have had this disagreement, but the Catholics and understanding that the veil of death is not the end, and they still kind of appeal to the saints to pray on our behalf. I think that's actually a very accurate depiction of the death really doesn't matter. I mean, they take it to an extreme where the saints have basically become gods, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I do think it's weird that you're praying to another person, right?
And
you're admitting it, Yeah.
I don't see a problem with the Eastern Orthodox would ask them to pray for them. And I think that's probably a healthier interpretation. So you could pull strengths from all the different streams and still be a Christian, even though you may fall in none of those camps. Like 100. When I don't think anybody fits 100% into any of them anyway. But that is the unity of diversity. That the root seed of Christ and the Christ in you, we can unite around that, and how you express it, completely up to you. Yeah.
I think what is it? He had some kind of soundbite, Sean McCraney did, and I think it was like objective. It's an objective truth expressed through subjective faith or something like that, because everybody has their own Christian walks, and you can't measure how godly someone is. You can't be like, well, you have 4 godliness and I have 5 godliness. Eat shit. Right?
Exactly.
Down to 3. Like, you can't measure that. There's no way to figure that out. It's really between God and them, just like it's between God and you for yourself, right? So yeah, you guys do your own little wrestle, you figure out your own shit, and you move on. And
I to some degree, it's healthy sometimes when churches split.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, because we've been seeing it for 2,000 years.
I don't say, oh, this is good or this is bad. Like when I was talking about diversity plus proximity equals war, I'm not saying that's a good thing or bad thing. That just happens, right? Yeah. Just like 2 + 2 is 4 isn't a bad thing. 2 + 2 is just 4, right? If you have a lot of diversity and they're all combined together, you're going to eventually have some kind of fight and split. That's just nature, right? And so, and so that's why I think it's interesting when people try to force this unity or try to force diversity. That's the other hat, we haven't done so much. Either way, to me, it still feels like control at the end of the day. And I think that's the big reason why I'm kind of like, with both of those words. Because at the end of the day, trying to implement those involves some form of control over others, right? Because, we have all this dangers of forced unity, but we also have dangers of forced diversity, right? I think that one's going to be a little more controversial, right? When you have forced diversity, it's no longer about who do you jive with. It's who's the most politically correct person to put here. Right. Yeah. Every pastor should be a Native American woman in a wheelchair. And I said it, and we need to make it happen.
I mean, and the problem where I see it in the political realm with the diversity is they're picking sometimes the worst aspects of diversity, not necessarily diversity of thought. They're picking things, the base
superficial stuff,
stuff, your gender, your race, your sexuality, whatever other, isms they can throw in there. And those are the things that don't really define, a person anyway. it really comes down to the character, the way they think, and all these other things. That's really what defines the person, right? The earth suit is the least of these important things. But with the rise of the woke left and, wokeism and the woke walkers, they've made it based on these, very superficial things. And we're seeing that you might have very diverse looking groups of people, but a monolith of thinking, as we're seeing kind of on the radical left at this point. And that's definitely, it's as we see the tech censorship, we're seeing all of these different things, the silencing, the cancel culture, that is shutting down the unique expressions of, not just political people, but even in the church. Everybody's a heresy hunter. Everybody's looking for like the worst of the worst. If whatever you seek, you'll find, right? Instead of focusing on the light and focusing on something that might actually bring us together, everybody's so busy trying to dig out the darkness. And we've been fighting for 2,000 years, man. That's not going to change anytime soon.
And it's that weird feeling, like, to me, it still all comes back to control. It's that weird feeling where like something has to be this way, right? Nothing has to be anyway. There's not really like, you might be able to disagree with this or agree with it, but like, I think nature just in general is pretty chaotic. And I think it's better to just learn to be that way. Like, learn to be okay with it and just accept, like, life sucks. Cool. Like, you can't, there's no such thing as utopia. It's never going to be the perfect mixture of the perfect unity. And like, your ability to accept that fact usually depends on how much of a dick you are.
As I can't remember who it was that said it, but if you ever did find the perfect church, then you joined it, it would no longer be perfect, right? It's this kind of seeking the impossible. And I completely agree. And in terms of the control, to be fair, religion is all about control. And unfortunately, Christianity has that aspect to it as well. If I was in any kind of political leadership, I of course would encourage religion in my society tremendously, because people with that kind of thinking, they tend to be more law-abiding. They tend not to commit as many crimes. They tend to be more generous. Even the pagan
emperors. That's because you don't hang out in the cool churches. That's because
well, maybe not.
Where we sell heroin. Where we go. That was a joke. Thank you, FBI agent. All right.
But like the pagan emperors and stuff like that, when they wanted to stamp out Christianity from the empire, they had to admit that without the Christians, there would be no charity looking after the poor. And the Christians were taking care of the pagans, and they were like giving food to the poor, and just the political will kind of died out, because they, as much as they hated the Christians in the Roman Empire, before Constantine, they admitted they were doing good. And we can look at some of the best aspects of human rights and innocent until proven guilty, habeas corpus. A lot of these political ideas have their roots coming out of Christianity, and they affect all of humanity. These are some of the best, that's basically risen us out of the dark ages and other things. But then when it becomes political and it's us versus them, that's what creates the dark ages in the first place.
Yeah. They just don't get it. But it is interesting that, like, you're talking about how they were technically more law-abiding. They were the better citizens, right?
Control. Yeah.
I know. To me, that's funny, because I usually see that as a bad thing. But it's just me.
If you want a society and a civilization, that's what you'd want. You want people to obey the rules. So.
No, yeah. Why do we have rules, man? Why can't we just, like, be free? Listen to Leonard Skinner and drink beer on our porch with our 12 gauge. Free as a bird, man.
There's a very interesting philosophy about freedom, especially the concepts of we have a freedom, and the kind of libertarian thinking is not actually found in the church, in the early church.
Yeah.
It's almost like the freedom is based on the knowledge. Like if you had two doors in front of you and you had to pick one, and you're free to choose, right? You can pick one, whichever door. But then somebody comes up to you and says, well, okay, and the door on the left is a lion that has been starving, and the door on the right is, a harem of women. You're no longer free to choose, because you know which is the better door to go, right? Your choices have been taken away.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
also isn't that also go in line with like the whole Sam Harris predetermination argument, where
I don't know very
everything
much
you
about
do
him.
is predetermined because you always know you're always picking the choice you think is best in that moment.
I don't necessarily think that removes the choice in that respect. Because you can choose to have the best, but it doesn't mean the outcome is going to be the best. There's still
Yeah.
consequences for your actions. So, yeah.
Yeah. The Sam Harris thing's tricky. I'm not a big fan of it, but I think there's like, if you want to make arguments for predeterminism, I think there's better ones besides his.
Yeah.
But
I
it
would
mostly has to do with time travel, and it mostly. It's funny because I'm not joking, but anyway.
Yeah.
Time as a dimension is a very interesting topic I can rant on for a long time. But anyway, so yeah, unity and diversity. It looks like Amos is still MIA.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be doing the podcast with him later. I don't know what's going on. So,
all right. Well, yeah, I might.
Basically, 1/3 of the show has been cut out.
How could he? But yeah, I threw the link out. If you guys want to come chat, maybe we'll make it a little bit shorter show since we have
one man down.
We're not very diverse in this crew anymore. We don't have our half Asian, for our street cred.
Apparently, being Asian is the new white, so he's now white entirely, so it doesn't matter anymore.
Oh, he's like transforming. He's like, no, I'm full white.
We can't keep track of this nonsense.
Oh yeah, there was actually interesting. Michael Malice and Lex Friedman.
I know Michael Malice. I don't know about Lex Friedman. Is the Russian guy?
Yeah. He's the one that does a lot of AI, and he hangs out on JRE all the time and stuff.
Right. They did a podcast together, I think.
Yeah, they did two. They did one a while ago, and this most recent one I was listening to a bit, and they were talking about the history of like when Judaism was considered its own thing, and then when they became white, and then when they became their own thing again. And it was that history of like juggling, is Jewish white or not? We don't know. And a lot of it had to do with obviously like the anti-Semitism stuff, and a lot of the racism, fascism that was going around earlier, and that's where a lot of the categories were flipping around. But we have Heather here. Hey, Heather. You became a tree. Congratulations.
I've been wanting to call in and just say Merry Christmas to everyone and Happy New Year. I missed you guys the past couple of weeks. It was, it's good that you're back on. I'm glad everyone's happy and healthy. And I just hope we have a better 2021 than we did in 2020.
Yep. I would hope so too, but I doubt it. So
such a pessimist. A pessimist.
Well, I mean, the terms 2020 and 2021 are arbitrarily marked, right? The idea of a year is made up by humans, so this is just a time. Yeah.
True. So, well, all my updates haven't fully gone through, so that's why I'm not on camera.
Okay.
Right.
Understandable. You're still in tree mode. I get it.
Yeah. And I wanted to show off my obelisk topper.
Oh, very nice.
Nice. See? Illuminati confirmed.
Yeah. Exactly. And the thing is, in regard to the topic though, like I like the idea of diversity and tolerance.
Yes.
Better, because it means we all retain our own personalities and our own selves without conforming to try and, make it seem like we're fitting into a certain ideology. But that's all.
I would say that's pretty much our philosophy, where we recognize differences, but we're tolerant as like, you do you. Like, if this is where you're at, we're fine with that. This is where I'm at. We may be in different places, but that's fine. You're on your journey. I'm on mine. We could respect that.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Well, thanks for letting me on. Have a great new year, everybody.
You too, Heather. Thank you so much for joining us.
All righty. Well, yeah, a little visit from our fellow robot. She's telling me she's not, but I don't believe her.
Did you put up a Christmas tree this year?
They did against my will, but yeah,
against your will. Yeah, all that pagan practice.
Yeah, well, yeah, they put up a plastic tree here. My family did, and while they're setting up, the base broke, where like some of the legs were like broken off, and you couldn't attach them, so they duct taped it to the floor.
Brilliant.
It was quite a janky Christmas, but yeah, I've never really been into holidays in general. I get why
Right.
people like them. I just don't. It's weird. I don't feel special on New Year's or Christmas. I'm just like, okay, this is a day to expect a lot of people to do this shit. So I don't know if it's just me being sociopath or what, but I don't know. I just never really got holidays. I don't think any day's really that special.
I'm kind of the same. I'm kind of the same with that. Although I think I might be if I had my own family, maybe with my own kids, I think it might be a different scenario. But because I'm on my own and stuff like that, I didn't have no tree. I didn't decorate anything. I cooked a ham, but I would have done that anyways. Like, no real difference. No real difference.
Dude, ham is the lowest quality meat. I hate ham. I don't know why. I will eat it if someone makes it for me, but I will never purchase ham with my own money. I refuse. It's that and Arby's and cheesecake. Those are the three things I refuse to buy. For some reason,
what's wrong with a cheesecake, man? A cheesecake could be awesome.
I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. I don't want cheese in my dessert.
It doesn't taste like cheese. I get high on cheesecake.
You get high on cheesecake.
Yeah, cheesecake will make me high. I don't know why, but yeah.
Probably because every bite's 900 calories of sugar. Yeah. But
sugar high or something.
Yeah, you're ODing. Yeah, ODing on dessert. But yeah, I think,
man.
Yeah, I think we got the most of what we were going to say out. You got any final closing thoughts? Maybe a guest will pop in.
No. I think the beauty of Christianity, I think, allows for diversity of expression. Oh, we got Red Crusader.
How we doing, guys?
What's up, Red?
Oh, we're doing great here. Now, you guys.
Oh, wait! Before you talk, I have to ask you: are you a cop? You're legally to tell me yes if you are.
No.
Okay. We'll see.
No, I'm in between. I'm a snitch, man.
Oh, then we have to stab you.
Okay.
That's the rules, not personal.
But no, so I got into this kind of late. So you're talking about, if I had a topic to talk about on this, it's diversity or unity in the church specifically, right? But if I had to talk about religion in general, to me, religion is tribal. It's its own thing, right? So every religion is seeking to like consolidate its own specific tribal group. And that's the way it's been since what the hell ever, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
I would say that's like the roots of it. But like we talked about before, have you heard the phrase diversity plus proximity equals war? Yeah. And so when you have that tribal group together and they start getting different views about their said tribal thing, usually that goes split, two new religions.
Or the church's solution was like, okay, we'll kind of flavor your new thing and add it to the church. And that goes into the unity aspect of the church, right? Where it's like, why are the tribes fighting when we can just kind of subtly agree on certain things and combine instead, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's tricky though, because I think that's what everybody wants, but I don't think that's actually what happens in real life, right?
Right.
There's a really good book. I can't remember what it's called, but it's called Jonathan. It's by Jonathan Haidt, and it's about morality. And we were kind of talking about before, where everybody thinks they're the good guy, and he would go off of one of the things he did for his book for experimentation is he would put up hypothetical moral or ethical scenarios and just listen how everybody agrees or disagrees and their reasons of why they think that's right or wrong. And a lot of it was like really weird stuff. Like we could do one right now. His most common example was there was a family who had a dog on the side of the road and it got hit by a car. So they took it into their house and they ate it because it was free food. Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
God, yeah. Talk about a moral dilemma for some people, right?
Yeah, and then he would add stories to it, like, "Oh, it was actually their kid's dog."
Right.
And then he'd go, "Oh, the kid was okay with it. It was his idea." So and you keep adding all these flavors, and you're trying to figure out what are people's core values of what they think is ethical and unethical, or moral and immoral. And the problem is everybody thinks they're a good guy, but you'll find a lot of different answers to that question, right?
Right.
So the idea of like diversity and tolerance is kind of tricky, because even though in that hypothetical scenario, it's probably happened in Alabama somewhere, but yeah, that's just a Tuesday back in Birmingham, but but yeah, like those people, like those ethical dilemmas, because most of religions in general have some kind of like moral, this is the right path to live, this is the wrong path to live. But if you don't have those same convictions and don't answer those questions the same way they do, that doesn't mean you're a bad person, right? But it means there's probably going to be an argument, right? There's going to be some kind of conflict, even though necessarily, even in that dog eating scenario, like it was a weird scenario, but you'll probably feel or okay, in your gut. And those are what people, live their lives off of, So I don't know. Do you guys think that eating a dog was okay?
Yeah, rather than let it go to waste. Even with the disagreement, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think God could use anything. Mm-hmm. And I mean, let's be fair, let's be honest. If there weren't as many church splits and divisions, the message of Christ probably would not be spreading around the world as much as it is, right? Mm-hmm. That's just a reality. So not that that's necessarily God's plan. It's just, God could use anything, right? He used the donkey and whatever the case might be. And this is what Conk and I were discussing before, that sometimes those divisions, they can't be reconciled, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, as I say, the Latin Church and the Orthodox Church have been fighting over like the Filioque for 800 years, right? They're not going to resolve that. First, personally, I don't give a shit, right? I don't give a shit about the creed, right? And I would technically be on the Orthodox side, but for the heart of the church, and it's like no change, we're not changing anything, this is our position, they're not going to resolve that. Mm-hmm. So why can't we just agree to disagree and kind of move on from there? And there's too much of, as you were saying, the tribalism. They're not okay with just letting it be. They want you to come to their side. They want, our in-group preference to be dominant.
Well, see, and here's the thing. Once you unify somebody under a main hypervisor kind of philosophy, they tend to divide anyway, exactly. Right? And that's what you're talking about with the different divisions of the church, right? You have everybody in their own weird insular thing. Like a very good example is just the epiphany of this has to be going down to Kentucky. And every mountain church has its own, like one specific thing that made it the new divide to make it its own church. And it's just like, why do we have to overcomplicate this that much? But
well, I mean, the root of division from church history was back when religion was such a powerful thing in society, which I think it's lost ground now. It's not as important. It's become a more personal thing. But we have a 2,000 years history of division in the church. It's natural, right? And it came from very serious times with, the Greeks and the Latins were killing each other, and the Crusades and, the storming of Constantinople. Yeah, these are Christians fighting Christians, right? But yeah, this is part of, let me say this. I'm hopeful that as the revelation of Christ grows in the earth, we will learn to look past those differences. And we go back to what Conk was saying, is just kind of the unifying agreement of, Christ, the Son of God, who died for our sins. And every Christian should be able to unite around that, right? It never says to, unite around doctrine. It says, unite around the love and the Son of God. That's kind of where we should be. And the reason we split is because we don't do that. We unite on doctrine.
Well, and really the only reason why, to me, a lot of people aren't coming together, it's like any philosophy that splits over time, is if there's a survival situation for that philosophy, people come together and, come together to be able to make that base philosophy survive, right?
Yes. Yeah. And we have a long history. We have the Christian church is 2,000 years of history, and you could pull anything you want out of it, even from the splinter groups, the Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists. Those are old old as well, not very old, but old enough that if people wanted to, they can always revive it as they want. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a messy history, man.
Yeah, I think one thing that I could add in there, though, is talking about is like I think most conflict comes from a lack of humility, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Lack of confidence.
Because I think what helped my worldview, like just kind of relatively accept this idea, is that realizing all humans are stupid, right? And I think once you realize all humans are stupid, then you realize it doesn't matter if you're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Mormon, Buddhist. Like we're all on the same boat here. Like
Right.
at the end of the day, we're all dumb humans on the same sinking boat. So I think that helps.
Going into that, isn't it amazing how people tie ego into their religion so much so? That's really the conflict point, is my idea is better than yours kind of thing,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
and
mean-
it's possible for one to be more factually correct than someone else's, but when you start asking mine's right or wrong, that's actually a different question altogether. So that I think that's where it gets extra nitty gritty, because that's not run off rationality, right? You don't have a rational argument for why you should or should not eat that dog. You know, you just have a gut feeling and you roll with it. You know, and actually,
We could end
more
with a
often than
meal.
not, our rationality plays second fiddle to that. So it's a backstreet driver. It's a backseat driver. It's not actually at the wheel. So I think that's something that a lot of people should understand too. I think would help is realizing like you can be as rational as you want, but like it's very hard for the rational thing to get anything done. And I think learning to
Sure.
accept that like you have weird morality gut feelings, and that's okay.
Oh no, it's amazing how much if you want to get something logical processed in somebody's mind, you use the emotional, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, look at sales. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's all emotion. And to be fair, we see this in the early church, right? There were so many divisions, first between the Jews and the Gentiles that were now coming into the church and coming into the temple. Then there were issues around the Jews that spoke Greek instead of Aramaic,
Yeah.
right? And then there was conflict between Paul and James. James, the half brother of Jesus, he was running the Jewish church. And Paul basically wrote Galatians and all these other things to basically say, look, we're done with Judaism. You don't need to do that. But all of those conflicts are seen in the first, 100 years of the church, where they're trying to sort through all of these different things.
Mhm.
And as you look as Christianity moves beyond the borders of the Roman Empire into the pagan world and stuff like that, you see it in Iceland, where the old Icelandics would have, Thor and Odin, and then they'll have a statue of Jesus. It's like they're covering all their bases.
Yeah.
There was so much evolution to this.
Yeah. The unknown god in Acts, right?
Right, the story of in Athens with Dionysus and all. Yeah, there's so much that we can tangled with in the church, and some of it led to splits, and some of it led to they ostracized each other and called the others anathema, and they didn't talk, and here we are.
Exactly. The way the founding fathers intended. But
Fantastic.
yeah, I think we're good about I'm cool with wrapping up. Are you guys cool with wrapping up?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Red Crusader, always good to see you, brother. Glad you jumped on.
Yeah. Hopefully I sparked some conversation here.
Absolutely.
Got some fun.
Yeah.
Hope you have a Merry Christmas and have a very happy New Year, my friend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those things too from me. I just don't feel like saying them. I'm just going to explain why I didn't feel like saying them, because, I'm trying to save time, and saving time is what it's all about.
Be brief.
Yeah. Yeah. I could talk about how brief I am for ages. All right, man. But it was good to see you. Have a good one, man.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Yeah, bro.
All righty. So let's wrap it up. Final thoughts, unity, diversity, church. Go.
I would say, because I believe in a universal Christ. I believe that, from the Gospel of John, Jesus Christ is the light that lighteth every man that comes into the world. I believe in the undoing of Adam. I fully believe God is going to work out a lot of these differences that really divide us, the doctrinal stuff that really doesn't matter, where we can have more tolerance with our brothers and sisters. And, we can still work together to, try to make the world a better place. So I'm optimistic about the future. I think it's both. We could be united around the person of Christ and have your unique subjective expression of that faith and make the world a beautiful, colorful, multicultural way while staying true to our faith. Amen.
Yep. Amen. Yeah, I think I would add in because it's something I kind of want to talk about, but it's the end. Maybe we'll throw it for another time. But if you really want to get to the nitty gritty of like unity and diversity, I would actually recommend people read 48 Laws of Power.
Good book.
Yeah, and I think that applies a lot well in when you could see other people trying to force influence one way or the other. Because it's not diversity if you have to browbeat people into it. So,
indeed.
Yeah. So I think in order to show like that true openness, no kayfabe, nothing like that, just being able to be yourself, follow your path, let them follow their path. You got to understand the 48 Laws of Power when it's being used against you. And so, yeah, I had a little tirade for that, but I'm cool calling it a day. Yeah. All righty. Well, I hope you all had a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll see you all next week on Brooks' channel.
Is it mine? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. On my channel. Links
Awesome.
below.
All righty. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks for watching, guys. Oh, he pressed the wrong button.